Hi, friends and chosen family. We wanted to hop in before we get to the jokes and the goofs of this week's episode to address the election news of this past week. We are feeling it too. We are feeling anxious, we are feeling scared, and we are feeling angry. We are so worried about what the future looks like for the people of this country, especially those who are in the president elect's crosshairs, for whom physical safety is no longer a guarantee, as extremists feel more emboldened than ever. We are frankly disgusted that so many of our country people elected a xenophobic, transphobic, homophobic, misogynist, racist, climate denying felon. We don't know what the next weeks, months, and years will look like. This is a time of profound uncertainty and grief. This is also not the time for apathy. Reach out to your communities, get involved, lean into the mechanisms we still have to protect the bedrock of our democracy. Check in with your friends and chosen family. None of us are okay, and none of us will get through this alone. For all my beloved LGBTQ plus family and community, know that you are seen, you are loved, and you are so celebrated. You can reach the Trans Lifeline in the US at 877-565-8860. You can also find mutual aid resources at findhelp.org. We love you. Stay safe.
Brother, sibling,
Welcome, friends and chosen family, to Brother Sibling Movie, a podcast where two siblings, that's us, discuss movies from our childhood and some that we're watching for the first time. I'm your brother, Evan Kerna.
And I'm your sibling, Mayor Morgan.
What's up? And this week's movie is DragonHeart, a super hot piece of trash from 1996 that we subjected ourselves to this week. It was glorious. But we'll get into
Was
that.
it what was it though? So yeah, this season we are talking about 90s sci-fi and fantasy films. So we made a real choice and decided Dragonheart should be on that list. There are not a ton of fantasy films from the 90s.
Hey,
So,
in our defense,
you know,
we didn't really remember anything about Dragonheart, and we're like, it could be something. I don't know.
yeah, it's about knights. It has a dragon. It's 90s it's 90s fantasy. Sure, let's give it a go. Is this your first time seeing this film or the first time you remember seeing this film?
This is not the first time that I am watching this movie. I must have seen it when I was younger. Um, you know, as a 9 or 10-year-old boy, um, um, it had a dragon in it. That's all I really cared about, and I remembered it being fun. There was a knight. There was some prancing around in the countryside. There was a hot girl and a big old dragon, voiced by Sean Connery. So
Yeah.
I had assumed it must have been okay. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, this one was a first time and let's be honest, last time watch for me. It is awful. But before we get into all the many reasons this is a piece of stinky garbage, do you want to give us a little quick synopses from our friends
Let's
at
throw
Chat
into it.
GPT?
Chajabate. Yeah, let's talk about
Japata.
Dragonheart. I honestly feel like I could go off. I honestly feel like I don't even need prompts for this because it's
I
so dumb
look.
and simple. Bowen is a knight. He's training the prince, who already is a skeezy dickhole, and sucks.
Dude.
The first thing you need to know is that he is like a strawberry red ginger. So instant
The
evil prick.
prince.
The
Yeah,
prince,
and
yeah.
he looks real British. You know what
Real
I'm saying?
British. Hmm.
No chin, big nose, interesting teeth, character
Interesting teeth.
forward teeth.
Yeah, 100%. Um, Turns out his dad is pillaging a village and killing wantonly for no good goddamn reason. And Bowen, the knight, played by Dennis Quaid. What?
Dennis Quaid
What? Dennis
in
Quaid
medieval.
does not fit in 984 AD at all. He
Good
looks
lord.
like he's out of a Rogaine commercial.
I I'm gonna I'm gonna shit talk Dennis Quaid some more later. So yeah, Dennis Quaid is a
Do-
knight for some
doesn't
fucking
make
reason.
sense in this movie. Anyway, the prince's dad kills a village. Some villagers kill him. Somebody, a young woman, jumps out of a fort and accidentally. There's so many screenwriting mistakes in this
Dude,
movie too. I anyway.
ugh.
On with the summary. She jumps out and like hits him accidentally and basically impales him through the heart. So he's dying. The nice queen, Julie Christie, is Celtic or something. We can only assume that her shitty husband like stole her and raped her and made her his wife, because she doesn't seem to care
100%.
about him. um, Her old people know dragons and some trick that they do with their hearts. So they take the prince to the dragon, and the dragon gives him a piece of his heart, which is the whole fucking stupid premise of the movie, which is dumb and stupid.
And it's supposed to be
um,
like the kid has to like swear an oath to not be a dickhead the rest of his life
yeah.
and like adhere to something like the old code or the old it's
Yeah. There's this
keep
incredible
going.
they take so long to show the dragon in this opening scene, and at first I'm like, "Oh,
Dude.
is it because they're like trying to keep the mystery No, it's because the dragon looks like dog shit and they don't want to reveal how awful this fucking CG dragon looks. And they're like, "Oh,
So
don't
accurate.
show him as much as you
Ooh.
possibly can." Did you
Oh
notice
my
the
god.
first shot of the dragon's hands, his claws? It was just like
Dude.
it was like out of a fucking PlayStation 1 video game. It was like
Yes.
polygons were
It
going into each other, and oh my god, it was
it
so bad.
it's so bad. The like and we're even taking like give it a grain of salt for its 1996 and this is like a full CG dragon. No.
They had
Uh-uh.
made Jurassic Park.
They had made Jurassic
Jurassic
Park.
Park came out 3 years earlier.
Like what? Okay, back to the synopsis. The
Yeah.
fucking prince
I
dickhead is
I have
saved. It
yes, I
ugh,
have things to say about the visual effects because it does have an important part in
we'll
movie
keep
history. But so anyway, the prince goes back and it ends up being a dick despite what he said, and he starts killing villagers and building a fort. And Bowen's like, "You've changed. It must have been the DragonHeart, not that you were a little shithead all along." What a fucking idiot. This guy couldn't
what
see
a
with his
fucking
own two
idiot.
eyes that this kid was a dickhead from day
This
one.
kid this kid is raised by a tyrannical medieval king and it's like but this one thing is gonna save him. It's like, dude, he was like 16 or 17 when this happens. Like the die has been cast.
Yeah,
He's gonna be a dick.
yeah,
It's
he's done. You're a medieval prince. You're done.
yeah.
Um, so Bowen changes his entire life, becomes a freelance knight for hire, and decides to kill all the dragons because I guess dragons are evil because they put a heart in this kid who he loved. Uh, so he
For
goes
some
around
fucking
slaying
reason.
dragons. Yeah. Um, Randomly, some monk. So cut to whatever 12, 13 years later or whatever, and Bowen is like killed all the dragons almost. He's like, I'm just finding the last dragon. And a monk becomes his friend and follows him around like a squire or something, but he doesn't really like him. He finally encounters the big bad guy, Draco, who is whatever, Sean Connery, the guy who gave the
The
kid
dragon.
the heart. The dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
The only
dragon.
dragon you see. It's so funny when he kills the first dragon that you see him kill because it's just all happening off screen and there's just like hay flying from over the horizon line. Like,
There's
oh my
like
god, what happened? How,
It
what are the
is
physics of this fight?
it is truly just, like, cartoonish. You know how in old, like, Tom and Jerry cartoons, they would fight, and it would be like a dust cloud with,
Yes.
like, punches and stuff coming.
Hmm.
That's essentially what this first fight is. It's like hay flying and, like, smoke,
Yeah.
and then it's dead.
Yeah, and then there's like, well, another dragon in the bed. What do you do with the dragon after you kill
What
it?
are you
Like,
talking about? This is the size of a fucking like, a whale. This is the
yeah,
size of the biggest thing on the fucking planet. What the fuck?
I know. Bowen would be such a more interesting character if if we actually knew how he killed dragons. Like, how does a
'Cause
tiny human go up against a single dragon and defeat them? Like, if he
because
could do that,
seemingly
then sick.
he is armed with a bow and arrow, a sword, and a
Is that why his
horrible wig.
is that
And
why his
that is
name is
what
Bowen? Bowen
oh,
Arrow.
fuck. I don't even know why his name is Bowen. I was like, "That's a stupid name for a knight." I hate this. Like, what is he, like, a 12-year-old kid living in fucking Berkeley? Like, what is going on here?
He might have been, yeah. Um, good God. Okay, so the Squire Monk guy, Pete Postlethwaite, who just defies all odds by being a great actor in an incredibly bad movie. Just like
Accurate.
you see him,
Absolutely accurate.
you see him being like, "Whoa, dick jokes, ho ho ho," and then suddenly in the last act of the movie, he's like, "I shall slay with the heart of fire," and you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy can
What?
act his ass off.
Yes. Yeah. But
um,
it's like okay, go ahead, keep going. Just keep going. We gotta get through it.
the basic premise of the second act is that Bowen and Draco, through whatever reasons that the screenwriters came up with to make sense out of this fucking decision, decide to team up and go across the countryside conning villagers out of money. They'll be like, you go and terrorize them, and I'll go and pretend to defeat you, and then we'll all make a lot of money, even though Draco doesn't care about money. And Bowen
Yeah, like,
ostensibly doesn't either. He cares about killing all the dragons. Also, supposedly, this dragon. Okay, Bowen has killed every other dragon,
every other
every other
dragon.
dragon, and on top of that, Draco, which is fucking Bowen's name that he gives because apparently Sean Connery dragon's name is too hard to pronounce. He's like,
Sure.
um, he has also killed friends of Bowen's. So it's like, how how does
These
they just don't
these
do enough work to just be like, okay, you've both killed all of each other's friends basically, and now you're going to be best friends out in the
and
fucking medieval
it's
countryside. Like, what?
in the span of approximately, like, 6 minutes, they go from hating each other to being like, "I guess we could be pals," and, like, "Let's run a fucking scam on these stupid
Yeah,
villagers." What?
yeah. Oh my
What?
god. And on top of that, there's all of these dick jokes that just fall completely flat.
So oh my
There's this
god,
super
it
disgusting scene where like uh
uh, uh, yes,
so Bowen is in the dragon's mouth and he's sitting on his tongue, and they're both
it's
like coming to this
they
agreement where they're
were
like, we can
so
kill
they
each
were
other right now.
well, so they were fighting the
Right.
dragon pre-buddy situation. The dragon and Bowen were fighting each other, and somehow
Really shittily.
Bowen really badly, Bowen, like, impales the roof of the dragon's mouth with his sword, and
Oh
instead
yeah,
of being
after
like
Draco unhinges his entire jaw for some reason, which looks
some
bad.
fucking reason, it looks so bad, and, like and so instead of doing a normal thing like letting go of your sword when it is in a dragon's mouth, Bowen is like, I know the best decision I can make right now. I'm gonna hold on to my sword and fucking grind it out on this lizard's tongue.
The
and,
tongue,
like,
like, flaps
simulate
around,
fucking.
and it looks like he's humping the dragon's mouth. It's just
It
so
looks
fucking wild and disgusting.
and meanwhile,
Who thought
the
this was
2
a
of
good
them
idea?
are, like, having a conversation.
My favorite part is the way that Sean Connery Dragon can still say his F's, and you'll notice that you have to put the top of your teeth on your bottom lip to say and he's like
Yes.
that the whole time, like, but it's
Just
fucking it's dragon
open mouth,
logic.
there is a knight with a sword sticking into your soft palate, and
Mhm.
you are still talking, and your solution is, "Let's make a deal, buddy." Like,
And they
okay,
tried so
whatever.
hard to make realistic lip sync too, which is, like, so
I
wild to
know.
me that the filmmakers decided, "No, in this one instance, we've decided it makes no sense for it to be accurate in any way." Anyway, they go on a rampage. Well, they go on a conning rampage across
Yeah.
the medieval countryside. We cut occasionally back to the prince, now played by the actually great actor David Thewlis, who is great and wonderful. He played Lupin, or no, Lupin, the Harry Potter
Lupin.
guy,
Professor
Lupin,
Lupin in,
Professor Lupin.
Harry Potter. Yeah.
Yes. Um, and he's great as a really bad ginger king who sucks and is awful.
And
Um,
his right-hand man is Jason Isaacs, who was
Draco
Draco
Malfoy,
Malfoy's
mhm,
dad, also in Harry Potter.
which is
They should
also the
get
name of the
major
dragon.
which is also the name of the dragon. They should
Draco,
both
not
get
Malfoy.
major props. They tried so hard. They are
They're
genuinely
doing
very good actors.
they are doing their damn best. They're doing everything they
They
can
are.
to not laugh themselves silly. They're like,
Oh, they
all right, we'll go back to Hamlet tomorrow, but today
yeah.
it's Dragon
Richard the
Heart.
Third is next week. Today we're
Yeah.
doing DragonHeart.
um, I don't remember what happened. Oh, the prince he's the king now, obviously. King blah blah blah. Who cares what his name is? Uh Somehow he captures, oh, the redheaded chick that stabbed him through the heart accidentally. Her dad is like the leader of a village resistance thing, but then the king just like kills him. Uh and she's like, no, and he's like, I'm gonna take you home and rape you now. Which they don't do because it's a PG-13 movie, but they heavily imply that he's gonna do some nasty stuff to her. But
And it
the
is gross.
queen, yeah, but then the queen, like, whatever, it doesn't matter, she
It doesn't
escapes.
fucking matter.
She's the leader. Okay, the girl is a leader of a village resistance group who's like, we have to take down the king and pro union and human rights and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
Bowen is a freelance guy who doesn't care about anything except killing dragons and making money doing it. Draco's a big old dragon. There's also Pete Postlethwaite, the squire or something, who's a monk, and I don't know. I don't quite get what his deal is. He's basically there
I
for comic relief, even though the entire movie is comic relief.
see, I literally in my notes. So I was watching this movie. Yeah, I was watching this movie, and one of the notes I made was, "Is this supposed to be a comedy? I
Right.
genuinely cannot tell."
Yes.
Like,
Oh man, I know. Okay, I want to talk about these things, so I will wrap up my thing because the synopsis of this movie, I could go on forever and just talk about all the little details. Basically, by the end, they someone gets mortally wounded and they fly to Avalon, and the Dragonheart dragon is like, we, yeah, Avalon, blah blah blah, this is where King Arthur came from. And Bowen's still like, I don't want to help anybody. Oh, along the way they try to con a bunch of cannibals, which I didn't realize was
oh
their
my god,
whole thing.
we're gonna talk about that when we
We're
get
gonna
to
talk
the
about
like
the cannibal thing.
talking about the
um
writing.
which is hilarious. Oh my god, that it's anyway. They go to Avalon. They're like, I don't want to help. Bowen's like, I don't want to help nobody. The girl's like, I'm gonna go back and kill the king because he's bad for the people. And the Draco the dragon is like, I'm coming with you for some reason. Like he cares about people
Unclear.
now or whatever. Um, and then, but then Bowen has like a weird, sexy dream night moment, and he's like, That's just the code of the old ways," which is the thing that they said at the beginning of the movie is the thing you live by. And then
Which was
turns out
the
Draco was still
beginning
there. Huh?
the beginning of this movie was an hour and 15 minutes ago, by the way. Like,
Right.
this is the point in the movie that I was like, "I have to keep going. There's another 30 minutes.
I
Oh
know.
my god."
Yeah. Um, They've run around the countryside. They're conning people. They go to Avalon. They have a heart to heart. The girl's like, "We have to save the people," and Bowen's like, "No." And Draco's like, "Come on." He's like, "No," but then he's like, "Yeah." And then they keep going, and they get back, and there's a big old fight with the villagers. They stage a resistance, and they're storming the castle. And the prince is like, "The peasants are revolting. They've always been revolting," which was like the first joke from the fucking start of the movie, which was dumb.
Hilarious.
And they'd fight through the castle, and Bowen, like, I will say, when the king dies, he falls off a roof. That was pretty sick.
It's
I
a
was like, this
it's
is
pretty
cool.
sick
That's a
fall.
cool stunt. That
Pretty
was
sick
awesome.
fall.
It's a pretty sick fall. I was like, they're doing their thing here. And even at this point, Bowen is still like, "You were good." It's like, this guy was never good. He was a shithead the whole
Never!
time. Are you an idiot, Bowen? Like, did you
Literally
never
not
see this? It's
not one
crazy.
time has this prince, now king, shown
Hmm.
any evidence of ever being a good person.
No.
Never.
Oh, okay. Important plot point. If you like, because half of the dragon's heart is in the king, David Thewlis, their hearts are connected. So you kill one, you kill the other, essentially. So we learn that somewhere in the third act, and Bowen's like, "I have to kill the king," but then he's like, "Wait a minute, if I kill the king, I have to kill my friend too. We're friends now, the dragon and I. Oh no." So the mom tries to kill the dragon first, and he's like, "Do it." But she doesn't, because the king gets it. He's like, rushes back to the castle. He's like, "I know what you're trying to do, mommy. You're trying to kill me."
Meh.
Meh. And she's like, "Man, yeah, you're a bad son. Man, I'm a bad mom. Man." Uh, and then, of course, Bowen has to end up doing the sacrifice and be like, "My friend," and he like kills the dragon with a pretty sweet axe. Well, it's a sweet idea of an axe. The props department honestly could have done a better job
They
making it
really
look like metal. It
um, props
it looked like spray painted latex rubber, which it probably
um,
was.
yes, props departments, I love you, you know I do.
Mhm.
Really phoned it in on this one.
It's a cool design for an axe. It has
It's a
that
cool
dragon in the
design.
middle. It's a double-sided axe. Also, I was like, they were fighting up on the tower, and like the girl has the axe, which she killed the other secondary bad guy with, and then she's like, and then they're doing a fight the king and Bowen is like a fucking knight who uses his sword all the time, and she's like, "Bowen, have this," and throws him an axe. Like, how is an axe supposed to be better than a sword that you know how to use super well? Like, I didn't get
I
what the point of that was. I was like, the axe is better? Why?
I just yeah. Then the dragon dies and becomes
Yeah.
glitter.
Oh, there's like a crazy wild like cosmos thing where like it's like a crazy super dreamy star sequence where the Draco becomes one of the stars. Oh, also important to the plot is that if a
Sort of.
dragon sort of if a dragon can only get into dragon heaven if he has like a pure heart or something, and it mm, that- I don't
And
fucking
then they become
remember.
a star, but maybe they were there before the
Which was
stars.
never
Look,
explained before.
I think
Is every dragon a
from
star? Because it seems like there was only like
there's
12
12.
stars
There's
max in
12
that
stars.
constellation. Yeah. Is that how many
I
dragons
think
there are
I think
in
what
ever in all history?
ever. I think, listener, what you can glean from this batshit synopsis is that this film is so bad.
Yeah.
It we'll talk about the we'll talk about writing in a second, but just it's so shitty. But
Yeah.
first and foremost, let's talk about the man behind the magic, the
Yes.
man who directed this film, Rob Cohen.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was thinking we'd do Dennis Quaid first, but let's talk about Rob Cohen. Okay, let me give you the lowdown on Rob Cohen. So, Rob Cohen, famous for such hits as um, The Fast and the Furious, Stealth. Oh my God, what else did he do? Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. Um, Kind of all over the map, honestly.
It's a
Rob
grab
Cohen is
bag.
a Rob Cohen is a how do I put it? How do I put it nicely? An uninspired filmmaker.
That is putting it very nicely. I would also like to say
Look, I
that
will say he did start the
he
Fast and the Furious franchise, which is a great franchise. We all know in here that F. Gary Gray is the real genius behind making the Fast and the Furious franchise what it is today. He is the Christopher McQuarrie of a la Mission Impossible. Like, a lot of people started it, but he took it to the finish line. He made it the best it is. But to his credit, Rob Cohen made the Fast and the Furious, so whatever. But he also made Stealth and a bunch of other stupid, uninspired movies that suck.
he also is single-handedly responsible for the casting of our main man, Dennis Quaid,
Right.
because, and I quote from Rob Cohen, he could this is not an exact quote, actually, I'm paraphrasing, but he could really sell the comedic aspects as well as the the intense honor of a medieval knight. I was like, "Sir, who are you talking about? Because it's not Dennis Quaid."
I heard Liam Neeson was set to star in this movie, which would have been
Dude,
much better.
at least he would have been able to do a fucking English accent, because that's the other fun thing. This is said
What
in England.
exactly is Dennis Quaid speaking in this movie?
He's speaking like, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like when you were playing D&D with someone and they do a 40% commitment character voice is what it
Yeah.
sounds like that he's
Yeah.
doing. Fully has an American accent,
hmm
doesn't even attempt a British accent, which in some ways I'm like,
he
"Thank
elongates
you."
his vowels sometimes.
Sometimes, and deepens his voice a little, but he is so beyond the wrong person to
His
lead
look
this
is
film.
off, his accent is off, his whole demeanor is, oh man, this whole
His
movie is,
wig
when they
is
first,
terrible.
I couldn't believe when they were like, this is not a knock against Dennis Quaid, this is a knock against Rob Cohen, but like the way that the first dragon fight goes, he like catches him in a rope, and then the dragon
Dude,
like crashes him through the forest, and like it seemed like something that ought to have been in a kids comedy movie, which I guess
there
honestly,
are
like, why, who am I kidding myself? This is a fantasy film in 1996. It was made for 10-year-olds, or at least that's
it
what the
was made for
studios thought.
kids. It
Yeah.
was made for kids, but there's so many weird slapstick moments in this film that do not read as being
No.
funny, entertaining, or slapstick, and I feel like Dennis Quaid is a big part of that.
I
Um,
Yes. Man. Ro
he's
we're bouncing back and forth a lot. Feel free to finish your thoughts on Dennis Quaid, but I got more to say about Rob Cohen.
I hate I hate Dennis Quaid in this film. He is terrible. He
He's really
cannot
bad.
he
He's so bad.
he's so bad, and I'm like,
He
"My
should
dude, you
apologize
knew
to
you
us.
were." He should. "You knew you were gonna be on a horse in this medieval fantasy film?
Yeah.
I don't know, did you wanna practice
Yeah.
at all? Did you want to maybe in any way, shape, or
Oh
form"
my god, there's this great scene where he's like it's like this
where he's coming
heroic
over a
scene.
rise.
He's on the horse and he's coming over the rise, but the way he's holding the bow and arrow while he's like on the horse was so dumb.
It's
He's holding it out like this. He's like, it's not aimed or anything. He's
it's
just
not
like, "Ugh,"
aimed.
and it looks like he's holding on to the horse for dear life. Like, he's
So
scared he's gonna fall off. It doesn't
so,
look heroic at all. It's
okay,
like, "Ugh, ugh, ugh."
so here is, a kind of fun, history thing that people can probably correct me on, but, one of the things that made, if you could be an archer and shoot on a horse,
Mhm.
right?
It's
That was
hard.
it is a huge deal because basically you are holding on to the horse just with your legs,
Yep.
right? Like that
Mhm.
is what is giving you the and like your core, the stability to stay upright. And
Yeah.
then you have to your upper body has to be really compacted and like
Mhm.
everything is hunkered down so that you can stay on the horse because your whole
Right.
body is working.
Yeah.
And Dennis Quaid looks 2 seconds away from falling off. It is just, like, floppity-jobbity everywhere. It is ridiculous, and it's supposed to be this, like, big heroic, "Oh, I'm coming to save the day." I was like, "My dude, you don't look like you could bag your own groceries,
No,
okay?"
he looks like, I was scared watching it on his behalf. I was like, "Please
I was
don't die, Dennis
I was like
Quaid."
I was just like, "You're about to fall off and get trampled by that fucking horse."
Oh my god, it was terrifying. Okay, also not to just to spread the blame around a little bit, mostly for the casting director, but Dina Meyer, who is the lady,
Mm,
also is way out of place. Her wig keeps
dude,
changing. It's like
my god.
sometimes it's fluffy, sometimes it looks nice, sometimes it looks god awful, and the
But
volume of
with
her hair keeps
no
changing, and
but with
she
no
just looks
discernible
she's just too American. It's like just so this is such an
she
American movie about
she also
Britain.
has, a full-on American accent and
Yeah.
is the token redhead in a like, redheaded girl in a fantasy movie that
Yeah.
really they, like, try to give her a purpose and, like,
Right.
try to give
They
her
try
a
so
character,
hard.
but her character basically is, "I hate the king," and that's it. There's not
Yes.
like, there's not a lot else there, um,
Going back to
at
Rob Cohen
at
for a
all.
second, I think it's sort of funny that so he was a producer for many years. He got his start. I think he produced The
Oh
Running Man
god.
with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and not always a bad thing. Matthew Vaughn was a producer first before he started making movies, i.e., The Kingsman and Kick Ass and stuff, Layer Cake. And he I consider a good filmmaker,
Yeah.
but he probably like loved the craft of making movies.
Had some semblance of respect for the art form.
Yeah, Rob Cohen is just to call this movie uninspired would be giving it too much credit, you know? It's just like
It
it feels like a movie made by somebody who didn't want to make this movie. Um in fact,
and
I have a
acted in
theory. Yeah. I,
by people that
I
did not necessarily wanna act in it.
yeah, I have a theory because Rob Cohen's first movie that he directed was Dragon: the Bruce Lee story. So I think some Hollywood executive was like, "You made a dragon movie. Here's a dragon movie again." It's like that's my best guess. Like I can do dragon movies. Like
Oh
not the
my god.
same.
Not
Uh,
at all. It's I god damn it. Yeah, it's so fucking bad. And
mhm.
okay, let's divert to talking
Yes.
about fucking writing for a second.
Oh wait, can I
Because
talk
you
about Phil Tippett? And no, we talk about that
oh, talk
later.
about Phil Tippett. Yeah, go for it.
Basically, just because I want to really get into the writing, and I only have a few things to say about Phil Tippett. Um, Phil Tippett directed the. Sorry, Phil Tippett designed the dragon, which is cool. Phil Tippett is a stop motion animator from way back. He got his start at ILM. He uh, famously he animated the Rancor beast from Return of the Jedi and the AT-AT walkers from Empire. I mean, along with many other people.
Legit.
Yeah,
He's a legit
he's a legit legend. He can kind of do everything when it comes to practical visual effects. He's like made puppets and puppeteered and stop motion animator, great model maker, and he has directed his own movie, which took 20 years or something to finish, called Mad God, which you should all check out. It's like very
everybody watch it.
beautiful. It's very beautiful to look at. Phil Tippett is like a legend. Um, So one of the cool things to come out of this movie are the dragon maquettes, which are like things that he built
Mhm.
himself that were used as reference for the CGI people, you know. So, but that's about it for Phil Tippett. He's a legend and great, but
Mhm.
and they were like, let's put his stink on this because he's great at designing characters, fantasy character dragons. He also animated a few dragons in other movies like Dragon Slayer and a few other things from when fantasy movies were good in the 80s. Um, and yeah, but this movie, it does come at a very interesting point in film history because Jurassic Park has come out, which was sort of a big
Yeah,
major evolutionary step for CG animation in
'cause that
Hollywood
was
movies.
94?
93. Hmm.
93, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
3 years prior to this, they had nailed it.
This shows you the difference between what a film made by a Spielberg and a film made by a Rob Cohen can look like. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like,
One of
wow.
one of the most, enduring films of our
All
generation,
time, yeah.
or a hot
This
stinky
hot
pile of
piece of
doo.
trash.
Yeah,
Dragon dung. Um,
dragon
but really, I feel like this movie was kind of like training wheels for ILM, Industrial Light and
Mm,
Magic, to kind of like figure out how to do characterization of fantasy characters, like lip syncing. Because you think about it, the dragons, the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park just have to roar and do whatever. And and
right.
obviously very clearly there is a distinct like you know, there are there's practical puppeteered effects with CGI, and they are
Mhm,
artfully blended so you shouldn't be able to tell the difference. And Jurassic
mhm,
Park, there are some giveaways for sure, but it still looks like $1 million. Like it's still incredible looking, even with
mhm,
everything. So, in fact, interestingly, the one of the first tests that they did for this movie was they took the CG model of a T-Rex and just stretched it out to make it look more dinosaur-like, and then used that to do lip sync tests. That was like one of the very first
or more
early tests for this
make it look
movie.
more dragon-like, you mean?
They made yes, they made
Okay.
the T-Rex look more dragon-like, and then were doing
Ah,
lip sync tests with it or
boy,
whatever.
oh boy, it shows.
That test looked better than the dragon that ended up in the movie. I'll be
Oh,
fair.
Jesus.
I'll be fair. There's a few shots that sell the dragon. There's a few that look
There
good,
are. There
but
absolutely are.
there's all kinds of things that are just like, I can't believe that they made that. This guy didn't know what he was doing. Like,
No.
they have the dragon walking in tall grass, like, dead giveaway. Like, maybe they did that to hide where the dragon's feet lands, but also the blades of
But
grass should be getting pushed over as he
yeah,
walks. So
there
it
is
doesn't make any sense.
this is yeah, the it is absolutely a, like, training ground and creating other kinds of CG
Hmm.
creatures and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's one
It's
of the, yeah,
also it it kind of reminds me, of, like, the first time I try to make a recipe, I don't give it to anybody because I'm testing it and I'm making sure it's good.
right.
And
Yeah,
then, like, the 3rd to 4th time I make it is when I'm, like, make it for dinner for someone or, like, bring it to someone's house. Because I'm not a monster and I don't wanna subject people to the shitty trial run of something
right.
like DragonHeart.
Like DragonHeart. Your first major CG movie with a giant talking creature in it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But, so that's how I look at this movie, knowing that. I'm like, these were ILM's training wheels to getting to like Jar Jar Binks.
The pinnacle,
The
truly
pinnacle.
the pinnacle of CG animation was Jar Jar Binks.
To be fair,
Correct.
Jar Jar Binks looks better than this dragon, so they did
Jar
some things.
looks
Um,
significantly better than this dragon.
yeah, so but yeah, it's training wheels for ILM, and you can tell clearly nobody really gave a shit about this movie.
No one I You had put
Y-
something in your notes that I totally agree with. this is a great example of people making a fantasy movie that do not give a shit about the genre, like,
Right.
at every
Yeah.
single level,
J-
because it it just, like, they're I mean, it's, like, a huge swing in the other direction, obviously, but, like, Peter Jackson, right? He's a huge fantasy nerd and a huge, like, horror movie nerd
mhm.
and, like, loves Lord of the Rings, all of that, like, he came to making the Lord of the Rings with, like, a deep, like, love and respect and, like, enjoyment of the
Y-
genre.
You mean he cared?
He gave a single shit
Yeah.
about how it was put out in the world. Obviously, that's, like,
Yeah.
full on the other side of the spectrum, but
Mhm.
it's one of those things where I'm like, no one gave a shit about the plot because there isn't one. No one
Mhm.
gave a shit about the writing because it sucks. No one gave a shit about the acting or the casting because it is horrendous. No one
Mhm.
cared about any of the, like, world building, anything. No one. Everybody was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, put it out, just make it happen." Like, "Yeah, we want a movie about a fucking dragon." Like, this is a big time, like, cocaine hangover in the mid-90s. I feel like, you
It's
know?
crazy. It's crazy to think that the Fellowship of the Ring came out 5 years after this movie was released.
5 years.
It's crazy. That's not a lot of time.
It
It's been
was
5 years
it
since
was
COVID. Like,
it's been 5 years since the fucking start of COVID, like, The Fellowship of the Ring was in production 2 years after this movie came out.
it's crazy. That's so wild.
Like, what in the literal fuck?
I
I
don't know. It's crazy.
and it just
See,
okay,
it shows what you get when you actually care about something.
it really does, and I do wanna keep shit talking on the writing,
Yes.
a
Well,
little bit.
I would argue that the one person who actually cared about this movie was the screenwriter, because I've got some interesting things
Absolutely.
to talk about, but this is a great example of a
Well,
movie that went wrong in the hands of
it
producers and
yes,
studios who were like kept giving
yes.
notes and notes and notes. So,
I and this kind of goes into the other piece of, uh, I wish that I could see the movie this could have been, you know? Like, if the entire plot of this film was a beleaguered knight and a dragon kind of become unwitting friends, and then they go all over the countryside scamming villagers, and it's about their, like, friendship, and it's like a buddy cop movie or something.
mhm. Yeah.
Hell fucking yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
However,
the writer, said that his pitch for the original version of the script was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Dragon. Like,
fuck yes.
that sounds dope.
That
I
sounds
wanna
dope
see
as
that
shit.
movie. I would
Yes,
watch that.
and this is something that the reason I say the writing is bad is no shade against the screenwriter, who I'm sure actually had, like, a very salient, beautifully done screenplay. What
They
it
actually
looks like
said that it's like, that it brought people to tears that when they read it. It was the screenwriter's like, "It's one of the best pieces of writing I've ever written," you know? They were like, anyway, I got more to say
but
on it.
what it seems like happened is each scene was put on, like, a flashcard. So you have, like, 100 flashcards, and then somebody gave them to a toddler who just, like, threw them into the air and then, like, drew on crayons all over them, and then wherever they fell, some fucking executive was like, "Yeah, that could be a movie. That's a plot line. Absolutely. Nailed it."
Yeah.
Because characters come in and out, there's no continuity, character arcs make absolutely no sense if they're even there at all. The
Yeah.
pacing, the tone, everything is all over the fucking map. Everything is everywhere.
Yeah, this is more evidence as to why I think the movie is actually almost intentionally bad. Um,
Yes.
because we were like you were talking, like characters kind of come in and out of scenes conveniently to deliver information, right? Um, and it's bad to have characters come in and out conveniently. Um,
Yeah.
you can have that happen with, like, let's take Gandalf for instance. Like, there's an innocent charm to The Hobbit where he kind of comes in and out at random, and it's maybe just because that's kind of like a fairy tale trope that Tolkien was
Sure.
working with, but also just because it's like, oh, it's like a kids movie, and there's kind of like an innocent charm when it's sort of like,
Yeah.
oops, he just kind of randomly took off. But like when it's convenient to the plot, when the redheaded girl shows up to deliver a key piece of information and then is carried off by guards for like seemingly no
Dude.
reason, where they should have been there the whole
Dude.
time doing something to her. There's like, this
It
isn't anything. This isn't innocent anymore. This is, like, if it's random, it's, maybe it's for an effect, whether you know what you're doing or you don't know what you're doing. But when
Yeah.
characters do this conveniently, it's like, this feels, it's done on purpose because it's a way for the screenwriter to get information out. It's a way for the filmmakers to
Right.
do something, and it's convenient for them. They don't want to put the extra work into integrating the instances of the scene where it would make sense for all of the pieces to be there, where it's integrated and there's a cause earlier that causes the effect in the scene now. Um,
Right. And it also just is, I think that's totally right on, that characters coming in and out of a story is not bad, but they should be there for their own purposes, their own motivations, right?
right.
Not
Mhm.
because I have to deliver a piece of like clunky, cumbersome fucking exposition at this exact time that somehow no one else could have learned or known about or whatever. And it just, one of the things that I think about a lot when I like watch films or even plays, things like that, I get this sense sometimes of I can see this on a page written
Mhm.
because it's not, the actor isn't selling it. It's obviously just there for expository purposes, not actual plot or storytelling.
Mhm.
It's not for character like it, you can kind of see it almost like it is written out of like, and then she comes back and says this and then gets taken away by the guards, and I'm like, that's just fucking lazy, really. Like,
Very,
it's just
very,
lazy
very lazy. Yeah.
storytelling.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's sad.
it is sad because Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Dragon would be fucking sick as shit. That would be a great movie. I would love to see that. I would
To
love to see
me,
that movie.
this is continuing. This is sort of more fuel for this theory that I'm developing, that like behind every really awful movie that we see, there was a good script that got ruined in production, mostly
Yes.
likely by a studio head, by a studio executive or a producer. Producers
Yes.
are actually friends of the movie. They want to get the movie made for the most part. Usually it's studio executives who have, quotas they're trying to fill and genres that they're
Right.
trying to, get on the plate, and people they're trying to please,
Yeah.
because the if the script that went into production was as written as you hear it and see it on the screen, no one would make this movie. Like, this is a great example of somebody had a great, I don't know, I haven't read it, so it had to have at least been a good script. And my thinking behind that is because reading the Wikipedia article about oh, this guy's name is Page Reed Johnson or something. Patrick Reed Johnson and
Mm.
Charles Edward Pogue, who wrote the screenplay together, and Page Patrick Reed Johnson. It was his idea, his concept or whatever. I think he even wanted to direct it, but they were like, "No, you can't because you probably would care too much." Um,
You'd make
but
it
like,
good.
yeah, but reading about it, it's like, if the stories are true that like this was making the rounds in Hollywood and like brought studio executives to tears, and like people who read it had a real emotional connection with it, like like I can see it. I can see the seeds in that last scene where it's
Yes.
like you can
100%.
see you can see where this movie was going to be great, where it's like, yes, if you have a relationship with a dude and a dragon, and then the dude has to kill the dragon to save the land, like, but then the dragon becomes like a star in the sky. Like, I see
Brilliant.
how that could work, but it just
Yes.
doesn't. And this makes me feel like it was tinkered with by people once it got greenlit. It's like,
Yes.
great, we love your script. Now we just have to change this and this and this and this. And why don't we have this thing at the beginning? And why don't we have a
Yeah.
hot babe? And why don't we blah blah blah? So it's like,
It definitely feels like it is hard to discern what the plot of this movie is or what the theme of this movie is. It's because
yeah,
you have a theme, like a plot line of like political upheaval. You have a plot
right,
line of a king being a tyrant. You have a plot line of a knight who has like stepped away from everything in his life. You have a plot line of a dragon and a knight being friends. You you have you have a plot line of a fucking monk that's just traveling around the countryside singing for some reason. You have so many divergent storylines that and none of them are brought back in together to weave a cohesive whole. So the whole time you're
right,
watching it, you're just like, "What?" Like, it's hard to follow, honestly, and it
yeah.
does seem like a too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing of like, "Y'all, just let artists put their vision out there." For the most
hmm
part, they've probably spent fucking years
yeah.
developing and honing their skills.
Every once in a while you'll get a Heaven's Gate that will cost you hundreds of millions of dollars and not make any money back, but yeah, I think that there's, again, this is adding evidence to
Wait,
my theory that every
wait, Heaven's Gate, like the cult Heaven's Gate that killed themselves? What are you talking about?
no, Heaven's Gate, yes, that is the name of a religious group, but Heaven's Gate is also a 1980 epic directed by Michael Cimino, which famously was
Uh,
super duper expensive and didn't make any money back and was a huge flop. And it was like Michael Cimino had come off of The Deer Hunter, which won all kinds of
oh
awards, and
shit.
so they were just
Yeah.
like, give this man money. And like, it's considered the end of the new Hollywood era, new Hollywood being like, Spielberg, Scorsese,
Right, right.
Coppola, like all these filmmakers who in the
The guys that
70s
yeah.
made their great movies, and it was like they were young, it was like they were bucking the system.
Oh my
Studios didn't
gosh.
know what to do because all of the older stars were kind of like fading, and they were like, just give these kids
Mm,
money. And it was sort of like a resurgence of sort of like artistic quote unquote integrity, I mean, like,
sure.
but
Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting.
1980s Heaven's Gate was kind of like, it's the end of the 70s, right? So like this sort of like, renaissance of great cinema. This one filmmaker who was, a big part of it, and then sort of like coming, I think Raging Bull also came out in 1980. So anyway, that kind of like cemented it as this sort of like
Hmm.
time, the end of the new Hollywood sort of renaissance, where then you get into the 80s when everybody's about like big guns and big biceps and action movies, and
Yeah,
with the
Conan
exception
of
of
it
the
all.
occasional cool. Yes, Conan is great though. Man, the opening of this movie, compare it to the opening
I
of Conan the
knew
Barbarian.
I
Oh
knew this
my
was gonna set you
god.
off.
Oh
I
my
knew this was gonna set
god.
you off.
It's like, oh my god. A the opening of this movie, they both have to do with the ravaging of a village and the creation of a hero, right? But it's like the first. Okay, so this movie takes way too long. It's like 15 minutes of just like, I
It's
don't
so
care about
long.
these people. This fucking village looks like trash. Like, the king doesn't even look that scary. And compare that to the opening of Conan the Barbarian, where like his mom gets killed in like minute 3 or something, the
Yes.
head chopped off, and it's like, you're scared. You're like, I am with this character now. Like, I want to, it's so fucking badass. And this movie is just like, bleh. This is
This
gross.
movie, I realized that I didn't actually start taking notes on this movie until about 25 minutes in because fuck all had happened.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those movies that it's kind of honestly, there is an art to this at a certain point of how do you make a movie that is both action-packed and mind-numbingly dull? How do you do that? I don't
Check.
know.
You might want to see Dragonheart.
Yeah, you might wanna see DragonHeart because, like, that's what like, it is an action movie, quote, unquote, like, there's sword fights and villagers attacking and
But the
stuff and
sword
things,
fights are
but it's
bad. It's
so
all bad. Everything
fucking
is bad.
boring, and the
The
fights
dragon is bad. The dragon's talking is bad. The fights are bad. The dialogue is bad. It's all bad.
but, like yeah, like, not even the sword fights are exciting, like, they're boring fight scenes. It's
Yeah.
it's so I'm so upset that I spent $4 on this.
I'm happy. I'm actually super glad that I saw this movie because we get to talk about it and have
It was
and
fair.
gab about what an awful piece of crap it is.
It's so bad. It's just like,
Yeah, what
go
else is
watch
there to say
it.
about
We
what
watched
else
it
is there to
for
say about how
you.
bad this movie is? Yeah, we did the hard work.
There's nothing. We
We
did
got
the
it out of
hard
the
work
way.
of letting you know how shitty this is. Like, I just wanna say, as a huge fantasy enthusiast and, like, a huge lover of the genre and,
Mhm.
like, different takes on the genre and all of these things, I just it, like, hurt my soul to watch this. Um, I
Yeah. It's like,
it
wow,
wasn't
nobody cared.
no one
Nobody
gave a
gave
shit.
a single crap about this movie.
No, and you know what? Evan, we talked about how shitty it was. I will say, because people will be upset if we don't say it, the fucking dragon is voiced by Sean Connery. Sean Connery,
Oh,
great
right.
acting job on
Oh,
the voice
right. We
front.
had so much to say about this movie, we completely forgot to even mention that Sean Connery is the fucking voice of this dragon, which is the only reason people went to go see it.
It's the only reason that people went to go see it, and also somehow, Sean Connery, I would say, has one of the most distinctive voices in Hollywood, like, of
Ever.
anybody, right? Like, he just
Ever.
has
Yeah.
a distinctive voice.
Mhm.
Bowen somehow did not connect that the dragon that gave the little fuckwad prince his heart and the dragon he meets 12 or
Mhm.
13 years later is the same one,
The
even though he
dragon that
has
you
heard
talked to,
both of them speak. He has heard both of them speak, and he's like,
it's
I
the
didn't
most
know it was
iconic
the same one.
voice. It's
Like,
crazy.
sir, what?
Are
How?
you an idiot? I think he is. I think Bowen
Oh, he is
a
dumb for sure, for sure.
is a lightly mentally impaired knight of medieval period.
I
A
would agree with that,
for
honestly.
one thing, he, like, can't tell that the Prince King is, like, a huge douchebag, even though every single thing he does speaks
Every
to a little shitwad.
every
He doesn't
single thing.
Yeah, he does not recognize the super iconic sounding voice. Iconic is the wrong word. Distinctive. It's a distinctive voice.
Distinctive.
You would think that that voice would be, like, burned into your brain from the time that supposedly he,
Yes.
betrayed you or whatever. It's just
It's
wild to think that
so
that's what
and
he's
again,
thinking.
I cannot stress enough how bad Dennis Quaid is in this film. Like, I cannot.
Let's just
I
rag on Dennis. You know what Dennis Quaid is great at? Dennis Quaid is
being
great
a
at knowing
racist shithead? I don't
exactly
know. He's,
that
like, not a
maybe.
good dude either.
What he's really good at is knowing when, like, how far to take his overacting. Because I just watched The Substance, which is a real disgusting movie. It's out now in theaters, and he's in it. Um, but he plays a cartoonish take on like a TV executive in it, and he really
Okay.
knows how to like ride the cheesy factor, like the overacting right up to the line, to the point where it's not over. It's like it's overacted, but it's not overdone. And I feel like,
So
oh, I had another good example of that. Not
that
Dragonheart. He's just
though,
bad in this.
Dennis Quaid is also in fuck, when did it come out? Many years ago. The movie like What to Expect When You're Expecting, and he plays like an old douchebag who's like a who used to be a race car driver. That to
Hmm.
me is like the perfect role for Dennis Quaid. Because
Hmm.
also, here's another fucking fun fact about Dennis Quaid. He is a major Trump supporter and has been going
Hmm.
to all of his rallies. It is the year 2024. We have a major political election coming up in the United
Yeah.
States. And Quaid looks,
He starred as Ronald Reagan in the latest Reagan
dude,
biopic, which nobody
I
has heard
just
about.
I just cannot. Not only is Dennis Quaid obviously not a great person in his regular life, he
Personal
is
life.
so bad in this particular film, the film Dragonheart, that he I now have a deeply personalized enmity towards him directly. And it makes
Directly
me
directed at Dennis Quaid. Yeah.
directed
This movie
at
would have been
Dennis
better if
Quaid.
Randy Quaid was in it. If Randy Quaid starred
Dude.
as the knight, I would 100% watch his brother taking on the mantle of Bowen, freelance knight.
Yes, because then it would have been a fucking comedy.
Yeah, like what it was supposedly trying to be.
I don't even
So many
know.
dick
Let's
jokes. I
let's
would be
just
remiss
fucking
if I didn't mention at this point that many people think that I look like Jack Quaid, Dennis Quaid's son,
who
from
is
his
wait,
marriage with Meg Ryan.
who the fuck is Jack Quaid?
You haven't heard this? I feel like I've told you about this. He's the main character from The Boys. He's Huey.
You do low key kind of look like him though.
Wait a minute, I just have to do kind of like a little turtley half smile.
Yeah,
Innocent, like I'm just here, like
just me. No big
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Uh,
My friend Jay, who works at comic
wow.
conventions, was like, "You should go to the next comic convention I'm at that Jack Quaid is at." He was at like
Yes,
HorrorCon or something like that, and you should just
yes.
like sit in his booth and see if anyone notices.
I
Oh
I will
man.
dress up as your security guard. I'm
Like,
100% into this grift.
okay, final thoughts. Do you know how many Dragonheart movies there are?
There's like 4.
There's
There's like
5. There are
there's
5 There's
5?
5 Dragonheart movies. This movie spawned a
What?
franchise of 4 sequels. Okay.
No! Wrong.
Yes. Yes.
Incorrect.
Dragonheart: A New Beginning, Dragonheart 3: The Sorcerer's Curse, Dragonheart: Battle for the Heartfire, Dragonheart and Dragonheart Vengeance from 4 years ago. They are still making these movies as of 4 years ago.
What?
And honestly, I did watch a clip from Dragonheart Vengeance and I was like, this is like 10 times better than Dragonheart. Just this little 30-second clip of a guy encountering a dragon for the first time. To be fair, the effects have gotten better, so that might help. But I could just tell
Obviously.
instantly, I could just tell this is better filmmaking. Like it just felt
Good
more like a
lord.
movie.
Good fucking lord. Man, I also would like to say that every single like when I was looking this up on like Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, kind of to get because I was like, look, everybody's tastes are different, but like I think we could
Thing
all
about
agree
this
that this
movie
is a
sucks.
universally yeah, I was like, we can agree that like this is a universally terrible movie. It nowhere did I see it have less
Mhm.
than 5 stars.
That's
Not
so
a single
weird.
place.
It's
And like
people are remembering what they want to from their
I
childhood.
guess I was like, have you watched it recently though? Because like how how in a like sane, rational, and overarchingly reasonable world does it have 6.4 stars on IMDb? How is that possible? Like, it
Yeah, it
doesn't
deserves 5.
compute. It
Mhm.
doesn't compute in my brain as, like, it'd be like if someone came up to me and was like, you know, "Oh, you actually don't have, like, blue eyes." I'd be like, "That's a weird computational error," because like, I know one of these things to be, like, accurate and true, like,
Mhm.
I know that and whatever. That's, like, the cognitive dissonance I had of being like, people say this movie is, like, heartwarming and is about friendship and is, like, really great and blah, blah, blah. I was like, What?
Here's
How?"
here's here's a little secret, and I think this is the unfortunate leg up that studio executives have over artists. It's that most people don't actually have good taste. Most people's
True.
most people's
Man.
opinions are bad. Most people's opinions are wrong and suck.
So many people's opinions are wrong and suck, which is the only
Yeah.
explanation I could think of for DragonHeart, because I was like,
America.
objectively, this is trash.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
that's my thought and takeaway.
This is why this election is still very terrifying. Go out and vote, everybody.
Please, please go vote. Please go vote.
Because
You can register.
most people's opinions who are bad are very vocal about it. This is how we get a 6.4 star rating on Dragonheart on IMDb. Go out and let your
Accurate.
displeasure be known. Go and tell IMDb that
Yes,
Dragonheart is bad. Let's bring it up. Let's bring it down to 5 stars. I personally don't think any movie that gets made should be under 5 stars because
it
or
would be
under
like,
5 out of 10 because it's like you got it made. It's at least 50%. But again,
but
50% still a failing grade.
it's still a failing grade. That's my thought and takeaway.
Mhm.
My other thought and takeaway is you can go to vote.gov to find out where you can register and when the registration deadline is in your state.
Pretty soon here in
Please,
California.
pretty soon in California. I'm in Virginia. I'm already registered to vote, but I believe the registration ends soon here. I'm not exactly sure, but it just please go vote. It's very important. That's my other takeaway from Dragonheart, the film. It makes me
Voting
inspired
info from
to
CA to
uphold
VA.
democracy.
Uh, yes, I got my ballot in the mail the other day. I'm looking forward to filling it out and checking out what my progressive democratic socialists of Los Angeles voter guide has to
Fuck
say
yeah,
about
baby.
things. It's gonna be
I'm
great.
just I'm I live in the South. I am excited always to cast my ballot
Your
for
vote
Democrats.
actually matters as opposed
My
to mine,
vote
which matters on a local level.
my vote matters on, I don't know if it matters on a national level, but it certainly matters on a state level. It is very important. At present, Virginia is the only state in the South, uh, currently, or as of a few months ago, that has any abortion care available to people, and that has been hotly contended. And
Gotta keep
Glenn
it up.
Youngkin, who is a horrible person and the governor of Virginia, basically went on a rampage of wanting to end it, and Virginia voters came out again and again and said, "Absolutely fucking not," and our Congress and legislature said, "Abso-fucking-lutely not." So thank you so much, but seriously, voting matters in your state, in your local and national elections. That was a super, bummer of a thing to end this romp
Watch us
of an
turn
episode
a
on.
lighthearted Raggin on Dragonheart into a voter guide.
Seriously. Hey, man,
Get
it's
it.
important. It's important. Alright, well, guess
Damn
what time it
Skippy.
is, Evan?
What time is it, Mayor?
Tambok na siksi. Tambok, tambok. Tambok, tambok na siksi.
Vibe check time.
Vibe check. Yeah, the vibe sucks.
The
Bad
vibe
vibes.
sucks.
All
Bad
bad
story.
vibes all the time. Bad,
Okay, so
bad,
we
bad.
don't
Low frequency, low vibration movie.
so here at Brother Sibling Movie, we rate things based on how is the story, how are the vibes. We don't do stars or anything like that. So
I
this
do,
movie,
but only on my letterboxed.
Evan does on Letterboxd because he's a huge nerd. This movie has bad story, bad vibes. Like, negative story, actually. Like, there's nothing there, and
Is
then
there
no
any
vibes.
yeah, is there, like, lower than low vibes? I mean, I guess no vibes. Is there, like, negative, like, anti-vibes?
I think maybe that's what it is, because I feel like when you say negative vibes, it's like, "Oh, it makes you feel
Yeah,
bad or something." Oh, good, my curtain just came down.
that was
Um,
great. The curtain's coming down on The Wizard of Oz.
yeah, baby.
The
Um,
Mayor'Zard of Oz.
yes. But no, it is anti-vibes. It
Yeah,
is
it's like
anti-story.
it's like what's it like? It's like, you know how waves, to be
Yeah.
big waves, they have to have the
A
bottom part,
trough.
that the trough, that's where this
Yeah.
movie is. It's in
That's
the
where this
trough of the wave. And then it's carrying a tsunami that will kill you with its
Yes,
badness.
with its horrible storytelling and bad acting.
Mhm.
Fuck this movie, don't watch it, it
Yeah,
sucks. It sucks
yeah.
so
Or
bad.
watch it so that you have some context for what we
For how
are
bad it
talking
actually
about,
is.
because it's but yeah, honestly, if you got 10 minutes in, 5 minutes, 3 minutes in and stopped watching it, we would understand. I'm glad we subjected ourselves to this
100%.
movie though, because it was
It was
fun to
fun
rag
to
on it.
it was fun to rag on it. And,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the end of this episode. Hope you
Bad
enjoyed.
vibes. Yeah. We hope you enjoyed it
You
as much as we didn't enjoy DragonHeart.
We did not enjoy DragonHeart. We wanna see a directly, what do they call it? An inverse relationship between those 2 things. We hope you enjoyed this
That's
episode
right.
and hated DragonHeart.
Yeah.
Um, so you can email us, your thoughts, takeaways,
Yes, you can.
ideas for movies, themes, all kinds of
Mhm.
things at brothersiblingmovie@gmail.com. You
Woohoo!
can find Evan on all of the socials at Art of Evan K. That's just the letter K. You can
That's me.
find me on Instagram at Lawn Daddy Lives Here. There's
Mhm.
underscores between that. I did finally check. And you can
Nice.
also
Good job.
follow us on Instagram and eventually YouTube at Brother
Yes.
Sibling Movie, all one
Yes, when
word,
I
pretty
stop
easy.
working crazy hours on this commercial job, I will put some effort into the YouTube, so you can see our lovely faces. And if you're watching us on YouTube
Yeah,
now, congratulations! You are a super fan, one of
we
5,
did it.
maybe 10
One
by
of
now.
Let's keep it expectation real low on that one. You can also find Evan
We're getting to
on
subscription numbers in the double digits. Let's do this.
Woo! Fucking firing on all cylinders over here. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can follow Evan on Letterboxd if you'd like to read his reviews of the film Twisters. There's
I just
many.
put up a new one.
Did you fucking really put up a new one?
5 stars. It's a great American movie. This is the tale of America writ
Wait,
large. It is the great
hold on.
it is the cowboy legend. It is a history of the West in a compacted form. It is be,
Evan,
better than The Searchers, better than Unforgiven. This tells the story of the American dream writ large.
how many total reviews have you written of Twisters to date?
Okay, wait, I'm counting. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes, there are 4 reviews of it
So
up right now.
75% of the time you said 1 star, and then 25% of the time you're like, "It rewrites the American ethos."
That's right.
Amazing.
I
Well,
reserve the right to change my opinion at any time for any reason.
I I love it, and I support it. Well,
Yeah,
follow Evan at Evan, Koehne, Evan Kerna on Letterboxd if you wanna
that's
follow
right.
along with his manic journey rewatching
My manic
Twister.
twisters journey.
Yes. And, yeah, I think that's all we got.
Mhm.
Give us a follow on Spotify if you would.
We would love it.
You should be able to make comments, I think. Um,
Ooh, would love to hear your thoughts.
Love to hear your thoughts. Email us reach out on Instagram, etc. We love you all very much.
And join us next week for another episode of some movie that we will either love or hate, but maybe nowhere in between.
Maybe not. All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.